it's mostly African that believe they native because they never done self work. We don't mind African people being over here. We just don't want them to think that we not taking back what's ours. And then if they can go over there and help take Africa back because it's going down.
Well, yeah, they're inviting, folks to come to, I believe, Ghana and so forth, and be able to get
Gotta
citizenship.
change their mind.
You said change their mind about where they come from.
I'm serious.
I know, but I'm just saying the inner work when you do, your self work, that makes a major difference. You don't have time to fool with other people's business and to try to impose your will on others, because you got to work out some the ish that's in you, the programming that's in you,
the art and science are staying in your own lane.
Your own lane, the trauma and so forth that we have suffered with through the life. People don't see this. A lot of folks don't see that, know that they've been traumatized. Because when I have a dear friend, I'm not gonna name her name, she knows who I'm talking about, and she hears that, and she says, I had to get 65 years old before I realized, that I've been lied to all my life. She's like, 65 wasted years of being lied, and every time I talk to her, she's maybe 66, however many years, she tells me all the time, and I'm like, sis is traumatized. Talented is, AF, but traumatized to the fact that all of as the truth is being revealed, what she's been denied. And how many others, even with me, when I had my awakening, my spontaneous awakening in 2010, at the end of 2010, it was traumatizing to an extent, but I didn't stay there. Some folks will wallow in their trauma. I started, surrounding myself with folks that would help me, to really understand what had happened, and to know that maybe I could be a part of making that change and helping other folks come out of the trauma. So that was my difference. I'm not saying that I'm clear of everything, but I'm saying I'm not stuck where I was when I first woke up. I'm not still laying in the bed of my, and being of despair of how they lied to me. So they lied. Now what am I going to do to change it? How can I help other people?
You got to go through the stages of grief and the detox of realizing that your whole life that you've been fed a bunch of BS.
Right.
The most traumatic thing to me, I'm recovered from it now, but nothing was more traumatic to me than finding out that the people behind this stuff, they blacker than me. That hurt my feelings so bad. I had to do the math at least 400 times before I would even accept them. I was right. My feelings was but it caused the trigger effect. As I recovered from that realization and verification process, it made me see beyond the blood in my eye. Now I'm staring at the moment of truth like the bull at the last stroke of the bullfight. I could see the matador beyond the cape. I could see the fraud behind the curtain. I could see Geppetto pulling Pinocchio's strings, telling him to tell these lies. Mm-hmm. My feelings was hurt, but as I recovered from those hurt feelings, I started to have a different position and perspective of looking at the devil in his face. And everything that they did to us to separate us, I got to work to undo that. I don't know if I'll be successful, because there's still going to be some idiots going to hate somebody because of the way they look. Mm-hmm. Right? Never knowing that the enemy don't care how you look, he coming at both of y'all ass. It's the same enemy. The enemy that sent them to do the dirt they didn't want to do, that was because they was trying to stop their babies from getting ate. Right? Then some of them was willing participants. Some of them to this day hold that viewpoint. That's okay. Because the guillotine will fix them. I just want to be the one pull the lever. I want a whole bunch of guillotines connected to one lever so it'll make a song when it start going down the line. I call it my guillotine concerto.
Off with their heads.
Off with their mucking heads.
Well, it's just, like I said, my heart has always been, for trying to help folks, come through something, as a former pastor and all that. It's always about helping folks come through. But when you have to try to go back and get people out of something that you had a part of putting them in, you know what I mean? You told them that this was.
That gives you a higher sense of duty to want to do it, but it makes you more frustrated doing it because you remember you used to teach it.
Yeah, that's the part.
And it comes with a sense of shame as you trying to tell somebody that I was tricked too.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have told you that bullshit. The mind control, the mental trap, the illusion that they paint, it's a compelling story. The greatest story ever told that ain't true. They tell you it's the greatest story ever told. They just don't tell you that Josephus Flavius wrote it. And that it was never a religious book, but it was a whole theater played out before they had TVs and radios in a play format. That's why you got the verses in the Bible. Because all of the verses is somebody remembering their lines. The more verses you can remember, you can play any part if you can remember the whole thing. They use the same format in order to create Hafiz in Islam. Because the ones who gonna rise up to be the leaders of a clan to try to expand reach and join the other clans and to get the imposters off the land, they have to control them, so they use the religious paradigm. Christianity didn't work on all them people in the Middle East. They was too volatile. They needed a volatile savior. So they saturate him with all these Catholics in order to influence what they need him to teach. So now he got to go to his Bible scholars in order to verify his revelations, in order to make sure that he translating correctly what the Spirit is telling him, and they telling them the wrong answer on purpose.
Me. All of these things have transpired for me within the past, I would say, decade. I am 47, and I just found out that my family may not be my family.
How do you think that happened?
Oh, it's a lot from what I'm understanding. So I do know that the two individuals that raised me may not be my biological parents. I know for a fact the paternal connection is definitely not my father. The maternal connection may be a part of the lineage, but she was not my biological mother.
So you really could have. Do you got siblings older than you?
No. And ironically, I am the eldest grandchild, supposedly, on both sides. Now, the trick thing to that is, and I don't know if, I know that things relate to me different than they do to other people. So I'm coming to know of myself as someone who, I do have discernment. And I'm fortunate enough to be one who can watch oracles, and I can pick out my storyline with no problem. So I know that my father was an elder male. I also know that he left me an inheritance. Now, within me coming to know about this inheritance, and ironically, the way all of that came about is kind of how this supposed family was attempting to trick me to claim my sovereignty, to rescind all of my documents so that I can become someone else. However, it didn't work out that way. but I'm one who realizes that nothing is coincidental. So I know that my spirit team has been guiding me, my ancestors have been guiding me to take steps for me to get closer to what I'm supposed to do. But I found out, and ironically, going back to the system, because there's a lot of uptick in the Oracle community that speaks of me and the situation that's going on with the regards to inheritance and all the people that are attacking me spiritually and attempting to attack me physically, all of the attempts on my life.
You know, it's millions of y'all, right?
Say that one more time.
I said, you do know it's millions of y'all, right?
I do realize that. Yes, I do. Even from just watching the oracles, there are quite a few of them who are going through similar situations. And I ran across something that spoke about, I'll use New York, for example, the amount of star seeds that they basically killed off there. The amount of star seeds that exist that they've actually did destiny swaps or attempted to take their inheritances.
Those don't work. Those always have what's called a residual snapback.
And that's what I'm going through right now. Because those that I knew as my family, fake friends, ex-lovers that I now know were sent into me that were pretty much all damn near down low. It's like waking up and realizing that I'm in a movie. And then I listened to the oracles talk about how my life is already portrayed. I'm part of a Truman Show. People literally are surveillancing me without my consent. I've had doctors speak on me and attempt to take things from me medically to figure out who I am. It's a lot going on, and all of these things were done behind the scenes,
okay,
so
first,
that when spoke.
Before you go any further, there's a couple things that you need to be aware of. They already know who the you is. When they
Yeah,
start,
I realized that.
when they start trying to take bloods and they trying to figure out if they can bypass Prime Creator and create clones, they know who you is. They know who I am. None of us, we be thinking we got to go through all, like you said, they tried to trick you into the sovereignty paperwork. Oh, that's BS. They know who we are. We don't got to do none of that. All we got to do is be self-aware. And they've been following me since before when I was in my mama womb. They was monitoring her for my birthday because they was dreading that I might possibly be born on November the 10th, and they was dead spot on at 10:45. So they can mix it however they want to mix it. They was doing an experiment called nature versus nurture when they was swapping babies in the delivery room, but they was also taking families' babies. Like they'll take a baby from one family and then they will act like they're doing an adoption to put it in the family that don't got the same wiring as the bloodline the child from, to determine if he gonna be a problem child for a different breed of parent. And a lot of us been problem child for them different parents. They don't understand us. They can't figure us out. Some of us be doing shit like 2-year-olds be glowing in the dark and levitating and all that. And they don't know what the hell. So they try to take us to the doctor to fix us. But they not fixing us. They fucking us up on purpose. They know what they doing. That don't have one. Soon as you realize that they been knew who you was from the day and time that you came in, they ain't never took their eyes off you. Look, I used to be in the woods in the middle of the night and know these motherfuckers is watching me and be like, where in the fuck is they hiding at?
Yeah.
And where is they? I know they watching me. I could feel it. And then I come across a book years later called The Sense of Being Stared At. They've been watching. They know who we are. There's no mistake about it. Because they have to keep track of us so they can know who to give it back to when they lose, because they definitely lost. And the Doge watchdog is proving that.
And when I think the last video I saw you, it was on a group of people. I can't remember exactly what it was. You did mention the nature versus nurture, and it did trigger some things because ironically, now I knew that I was different from as far back as I could remember. However, I cannot remember anything before the ages of 5. And me watching the oracles, again, my story resonates with me very strongly. So it was a mention of a child being abused and consistently being beat in the head to the point where the child had to go to the hospital and had swelling on the brain. And ironically, I have a crack on my forehead where my third eye is to be. And the oracle was stating how in my childhood, I would speak of things that they didn't understand and made them fearful because I was seeing things that I wasn't present for and they didn't understand it. And even still to this day, with everything that's going on with them attempting to run my character, my name and everything through the mud and on the dark web, and all of these judges and clerks and all these politicians and government, the whole the whole MK Ultra thing, like to really open my eyes and see what my life has truly been, it shocks the hell out of me.
So what do you think you need help with the most right now?
Right now, if I had to choose something, it's learning how to get off of me whatever is on me. There was a point in time when my gifts was
ain't nothing on you.
Okay, so what am I possibly either not doing, or maybe I'm still suppressing, I'm not sure, because there was a time when my gifts were so clear and vivid that it would be like watching a television screen. I could literally close my eyes and I can literally foresee things that clear, and it's not that anymore.
That's because the faculty is atrophy. The only way to rebuild it is to let your imagination flow with it. Remember what they used to say, don't let me catch you daydream?
Yeah.
In school? That's what you was doing. You was building your ability to see that the whole spectrum psychic field. You use daydreaming as a child because there's nobody to teach you. So you automatically born wired to daydream in order to practice developing the psychic faculty. The ones of us that do that, we end up in special ed, we end up medicated and all kind of stuff. And the only way right now, you focus on your cleanses and your heavy metal cleanses, because they didn't probably poisoned you with aluminum and arsenic.
I had to recently just last year I went through cancer treatment because they diagnosed me with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had to get 7 transfusions.
Do you know what that
And I
comes
knew
from?
it wasn't coincidental because I know that they were poisoning me, because twice I was sick to the point where I felt as though I was dying. I laid up in the bed for like 7 and 8 days each time, and I just talked to divine.
Do you know what non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is?
It's a blood cancer, isn't it?
They tell you, okay, when they say lymphoma, means lymphatic system. Hodgkin's disease is an entirely different disease. That's why it's called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right? Right? I'm going to tell you where it comes from, and it's going to shock you. Women using deodorant that's laced with aluminum that's clogging up the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system clogged up creates tumors from the body trying to correct and get the toxins out. So what do? They massively overload you with toxins, either radiation treatment or chemotherapy. Both of them are toxic.
And that's what they did. I had chemo. And ironically, there was no mention of a tumor. They were just curious as to why my blood count kept dropping and where the blood was going.
Mm-hmm.
And I know prior to that, I had not used the deodorants for quite some time. I'm one of those who, I do know the importance of, not doing that. I hadn't used that in years.
But you used to use it regularly when you was younger, right?
When I was younger, yes. And back then I didn't know the difference between antiperspirant versus a deodorant. Like I didn't know about the aluminum and all those things back during that time either.
Yeah. Strangling the system.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what the deficiency that make your blood drop and it causes you to suffer anemia. The condition is liver congestion. You have excessive blood buildup in the liver, which limits the amount of blood available to be pushed through the system.
Yeah, I thought of that too. And again, with my whole situation, because it's challenging and I'm still attempting to figure it out because I have been blocked financially. They've tapped my devices, the whole nine
Oh, they like
yards.
to keep us. They like to keep the chosen ones broke because they know if we got money, we gonna fix the world.
Yeah, I had even got to the point where I walked away from the corporations as far as being an employee and sought to do my own thing. So I had started an elder care thing in Rhode Island, and I would do like little food gigs for community festivals and things of that nature. And I got into gardening, and slowly but surely it all tanked. It all tanked.
But that wasn't your path.
You know what, Rod? I feel as I don't think the senior aspect was, but as far as the gardening, like I feel now that I kind of see things a little bit more than what I did growing up, I feel as though I am to be the example of unconditional love. I feel like I'm one here to share the story of the matriarch,
Okay.
and I stand firm in
It
that
is
shit too.
rules. It is rules that go with unconditional love too.
Yeah, I know. I had to find that out because, again, I only really socialized with family, but the closest family that I did constantly associate with were my children. So they even utilized my children too, right?
Yeah, that's kind of.
Identification stolen, the whole nine yards.
Where
Like
do you, where do you
my
think? Listen, where do you, if you don't think they're gonna use your children, where do you think women get the idea, the concept, to disassociate the father from the child they made together and to use the child to punish the father? Who do you think came up with that? That's not a matriarchal thing. Women don't real healed women don't think like that. That's only some trauma based women that's operating from traumas that they
yeah,
can't overcome, listening to other traumatized victims trying to tell them how to X out the trauma by causing more trauma. This is
yeah,
because why the baby's messed up right now to this day. The baby's messed up now because you got traumatized people raising them, traumatizing them, trying to under the pretense of avoiding trauma, they giving them worse trauma. So instead
hmm
of let your baby spend time with his father, you rather kill it. That don't make sense. They call it abortion.
yeah. It's crazy.
Under the matriarchy, abortion was only allowed under certain conditions. I'm not gonna get into all that, but if the woman didn't want the child, she didn't have to keep it, but she had to give it to the daddy. There's
Yeah,
most,
it's
there's very few men who have the option to be a father to their child that know it's his child that's gonna go the other way. It's very, very, very few, unless they them people that look like us and ain't us. It's a lot of them. But
yeah.
generally,
I'm finding that out the
it's
hard
it's
way.
more people that's not those people on earth than it is those people that look like us that ain't us. And
Yeah,
most men, when given the opportunity, would rather be a participant in the raising and the upbringing of their children in multiple capacities, not just as the guy to go out and go to work and bring the money home at the end of the week. That's a slave concept that has nothing to do with building a household. There's nothing in this system designed for us to build a household and functional families, which is only going to accelerate the decay of the society because it's going to keep producing more trauma on top of trauma, generation to generation, until somebody see it. And
yeah.
the more it's done, the harder it is to see it because what's the trauma looks normal. A lot of women think they sweat up and down they doing what's right, but they figure because they carry the child as hers and hers alone. That's not matriarchal thinking. That's patriarchal thinking, indoctrination through feminism.
Well,
Women
I'm
never
thankful
thought
I
like
didn't
that
have that
until they
mindset.
encountered feminists.
I'm glad I didn't have that mindset. And although he was an absent parent, the door was never closed. He just chose never to enter unless it was according to his conditions. And
See,
part of that condition was to always have access to me, and that wasn't an
no,
option.
that's not always the case. That's a boy acting like a man.
Yeah, he's part of that group that I'm coming to know is down low. Um,
I rest
and
my case.
not just that, he's also part of the group that took whatever connected to me. And knowing that his children struggled, knowing the many times we were homeless,
He's one of them. He's an absolute
yeah,
100% Jacobite.
He is. And it's sad because, you know, like I said, they utilize my children, and I've even told them, like, it hurt me initially, that they chose to partake in that with him when he wasn't even present at all, versus coming to tell me of the things that they knew. I had to kind of, once I had got to a point of accepting what I'm hearing in the oracles that was resonating with me, and I took the time to step back and think back in my life, I realized I did ignore a lot of red flags. A lot of things are right in front of my face and I didn't see them. And
what do you do with that? At this point, what do you do with that?
Actually, what I'm doing with it is I've taken it in and I've accepted that, and I work on me. Now I set boundaries, right? Now I, you know, even with my children, and I have grandchildren, it hurts my heart, but I have very strong boundaries. And I'm attempting to work on myself because I don't want my boundaries to be so firm, because again, I know that I'm here to be an example of love.
Give me an example of a firm boundary that you have.
With regards to my children,
no matter what it is, as long as you know that it's a firm boundary, like the thing that you say, I'm not gonna never tolerate this in my life ever again.
I'm kind of, I would say the gaslighting for me, since that seems to be the way everybody tends to come, is the gaslighting. A lot of things that people used to say to me, I would just ignore and be like, oh, they tripping, or, you know, I brush it off, but no more. And I even still have to curb that, because sometimes I wonder if I'm too abrasive. Sometimes I wonder if I'm too abrasive, or if I come off too much of my masculine energy because I function that way for so long.
It's always a possibility.
I know it is, and I do my best to be
What do you
conscious
call
of it.
gaslighting?
For example, one of the projects I was working on, my intellectual property. Oh, that's really good. I like that. I like that. But then they would go behind and talk to other people and say, oh, she ain't gonna be successful. Oh, that ain't shit. She don't know what she's doing. But then they turned around and stole my shit.
That's not gaslighting.
No, the fact that they made it seem like, oh, it was a really good idea. You're gonna be really good at that.
Why wouldn't they steal it? Why would they steal it if it wasn't a good idea?
That's a good
question. They told you the truth of how they felt at that moment, and then they used the other tacky shit they did behind your back, as so nobody won't look at them as being the thief that stole the property. That's not gaslighting. That's just setting you up so I can steal your shit.
Okay.
That's what they do to all of the rap artists. When they sign the contract, they never gonna give them their value. They gonna give them what they willing to give them, and they gonna try to figure out how to have all of it in the end before the contract expires. And it's gonna all be in that contract, but you're not gonna know it until they start cashing in on your ass.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Your intellectual property is great as long as it came from the heart, and the greatness is gonna make people do that type of stuff because they know that they can benefit from your artistic expression that they not capable of expressing themselves. So what they do, they take what you did, but first, before they do that, they lay the foundation to make anybody have any. When you come tell them who stole your shit, they gonna all look at you like, I don't believe that. He ain't like that shit no way, right?
Yeah.
So now in the minds of all of the people that he spread about how horrible your arts and your talents was before he stole it, or she, before they stole it, all the people they was burning bread on your art with. Now, when you tell them people that that person is the one who stole your art, who is they looking at like crazy?
Them.
You just got set up.
Yeah.
That's a classic Karen game. I went, oh, easy to interpret. It ain't always quick to see at the beginning, but as it plays out, it's the same story. It's a sharecropping agreement.
I'm I want to say that I may have somewhat salvaged myself in the sense where I did the only thing I knew to do without having to register my property, and that was make it public. And I also have.
That's how we do it as in the tribal tradition. We make our
I actually thought
intellectual
about you.
property.
Yeah, I thought about you when I did it.
Yeah, we make our intellectual property known to as many people as we can, and we try to have it in a format where somebody can go back and reference it.
Yeah.
That's where the oral tradition come in. That's why we never had a patent office until the 1800s, I think it was, 1700s, somewhere in there. We never had a patent office over here on these lands. We didn't need one. Matter of fact, your intellectual property was so valuable and important to us that you get your proper credit that we would name it after you. Right?
Yeah.
We would name the first rapper, his name was Rapper, and he rapped candy for a living. So we gonna name his style of music rap. That's just an example of how we move, but I'm not sure if that's true right there. But generally, like the Bridge family, they was the ones who built the bridges. You can associate bridges with the bridges because when you hear one name, you hear the other.
Yeah.
The goldsmiths, what did they do? They was the people who used to melt down and make the gold trinkets for the chiefs of the land. That's why their last name is Goldsmith, right? Who called them Goldsmith is an exonym, is not the point. The point is we called each other by our professions.
Yeah.
We called each other by our intellectual property, and our intellectual property was automatically associated with us. Mississippi ain't named after no man. That's why it got Mrs. at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, the biggest clan on the land is the old Mississippians, and Mississippi not named after a man. So the intellectual property right that carries on from all Mississippian tribes ties back to the Mississippi mama.
That's deep.
This is why anytime the land is in a crisis like it is now, they gotta go to Mississippi and scatter chiefs across the land as youth, as adolescents, right? And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 generations, but they gonna all know each other because Mississippi niggas know Mississippi niggas because Mississippi niggas do Mississippi shit. And then we go try it out on them NO niggas to see if it's a yes or a no. And if they tell us it's a go, it's a go. Then they go second line marching in order for them Crips to start walking, to trigger them Bloods to start be walking, in order for them Detroit niggas to jit, while them south side of Chicago niggas is ballrooming in competition versus them west side Chicago ballroomers. And they trying to get it all told in the story where one of us gonna be able to read it, because the culture is not gonna leave the people, even if the people try to escape the culture, because the culture is tied to the DNA of the people. It's in the blood. And if it's in the blood, I'm a bloodhound. I'm gonna sniff it out.
Yeah.
That's a whole different breed. Ain't no future in your fronting.
That's a throwback. I have another question too with regards to the records, because I actually, upon me finding out this information, I contacted the hospital that was listed on the birth record that I was born at to be told that they didn't have the records any longer. When I inquired as to if they had an archive, I was told that they didn't have that. So then I contacted, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What city was that in?
Chicago.
Oh, they full of shit.
I know they are.
Chicago, this Chicago Cook County Hospital was originally the Grand Doula Center where all of the doulas across Canada, the islands, into South America came to learn the science of birthing and child rearing and medical practice.
I think I was born in, what is it, Jackson Park?
Yeah,
Is it
but they
Jackson Park
still got
Hospital?
all that. I was using Cook County as the example, but all of the hospitals still have a repository of information. If they tell you and block you and say that your paperwork is lost, 9.9 out of 10, what that means is it's sealed by the government, so you will never know who you is until
Yeah.
it's over with.
Yeah, I figured that out too, because I also requested the original application for the Social Security account number. And it's been well past 6 weeks and I haven't heard anything yet. Although I was able to speak to a representative to know that although my date of birth is 10/10/77, the date of issue on the application was June 15th of 1979.
Wait a minute, say that again.
I was born 10/10/77, but the issue date for the Social Security number was June 15th of 1979.
But that's not uncommon. Because when they first, they for a long time, we were suspicious of getting Social Security cards. And you have people that don't have them sometimes until they go into school and the school require it. So
Mm-hmm.
all the way from birth to 5 years old, anywhere in there is a timely manner in a Social Security card acquisition. But you still have your indemnity record is based on your true birth, not the bond birth certificate, but they have what they call a long form. The long
Mm-hmm.
form, the master copy is always kept by the city that you was born in. They always keep the master copy, and sometimes they give you a copy of the long form, but most of us get the 8x10 short form birth certificate. So now they don't
Yeah.
even give you that. Now they give you something that look like it look like a certificate to a preschool baseball tournament.
Yeah. And you know what, Rod, I even still question that because I also discovered that, like I said, the gentleman that I grew up with in the household was not my biological father, but I was able to pull records on that, the affidavits and all. So he claimed me to be his a year after he and the woman that I knew as my mother got married. And ironically, on the bottom of that form, he didn't even know, I guess, how old I was, apparently, because I'm not his child. But I was listed as the age of 4 on that affidavit. And then whoever the representative was or the agent that they dealt with in that whole process noted 10/7/83, which I'm assuming would have been the date that I would turn 5, because I couldn't think of any other reason they would put that date in that corner. And again, I'm finding all of this out after realizing that there's this big old inheritance circling around me. Everybody's trying to knock me off and get me to sit still and not move and not be seen and not be heard.
Yeah. So your true so what you picking up is your true inheritance is blue house fatherland, daddy's girl, birthright, coming off
Yes, and
the matriarchy. You still got that coming. They know it's going to be released. It can't nobody get it but you because you the only. They know who you is.
yeah, some people have been able to access something. Again, I don't know exactly what it
They
is because
look.
no
They
one's
can use
approached
all the
me.
fraud they want under the query under the Piscean age. They was allowed to go rampant with the fraud, but
Yeah,
they don't touch the principle.
I have a
They just was
question
able
for
to
you
live
too.
off the principle by leveraging the principle as the collateral, but nobody can
Yeah,
take the collateral from you.
yeah, because the oracles were saying that um, basically they were like getting payments, increments to take care of me. But when I was to reach a certain age, I was supposed to get it, which I never heard anything about. And from what what I'm gathering, something was sent out in Detroit, Michigan, at a time when I had already left, because all of my children were born there. So whoever was there got their paws on it.
Well, that was back then, you know, they was doing scams like 90 going north on the hustle game.
Yeah.
They was making identities. They was putting light bills and gas bills in babies' names.
Oh yeah, I got multiple copycats and doppelgangers walking around these North American lands with my name. Got even some trying to look like me. Crazy, sound like me and everything. It's wild. I have a question with regards to the paternal line. Again, a lot of my information is coming through spirit. It's being spoken of that on my paternal lineage, there was a connection with Masons. I'm not sure, possibly Eastern Stars. I'm not sure. I don't know his information. So much so that these cults are coming up in the energy, questioning who I am and how do I know these things, and they're trying to figure me out. So my question is, although I'm not aware that I've run across any of that particular knowledge, is that something that can also be handed down through DNA?
Yeah. Anything your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents in that venom ever learned is accessible through the DNA, but your due diligence is how you activate it.
Okay.
But look, those people, you need to learn how to sit in your God seat. We're going to have to finish this in a personal chat, because I got to give you some other instructions. Because
Okay.
right now, because you're not self-aware, I'm going to advise to you that you email Empress Rarebird at the Shalagi Cherokee Nation and try to enroll in the next 12 steps of sovereignty that walks you through the steps where them people questioning you, you need to be questioning them. Anybody asking you about you, you need to be asking them why you asking about me.
Yeah.
And you turn your power dynamic around. But it's more to it than that. And it's like over a period of time, you gotta have revelations in steps, in stages you have to get through, because you got a lot of stuff between you and activating who you are that you explaining in your, like when I asked you about what you thought gaslighting was, right? Which was a carryover from your hard boundaries, right? So if you can get the information off, just type Empress Redbird in your YouTube search, and her channel will pop up. You can click on her channel and get all of the information to mail. But you got a lot of work to do in order to take your power back. That's what all you're doing right now, is struggling to take your power back. And that's exactly
Yeah.
where you stuck at, because you don't know which steps to take. And by not knowing which steps to take, you're scared to make the wrong step. So she gonna walk you through the steps in the 12-step process. Step 13 is getting your diploma from Big Mama's chair.
Yeah, I do have a lot to learn. And I see people in the comments. You guys, you can follow me. I'm on Facebook, if you don't mind, Rod.
Go ahead.
You guys can follow me. I am on Facebook. My name is Jamila S. Neal. And you can also find me on YouTube under Starfire's Seated Share.
Yeah, fraud would call Empress Redbird a fake because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Look, nobody that I'm talking about that haven't been through the fire and been tested with all of those people, with all of those false allegations, we all been through it. You're not going to be the one, and everybody and somebody not going to try to stop you from sitting in your seat. And this is why I was referring her to Empress Redbird, for that very reason.
And I actually thought about reaching out, but again, with my financial situation,
It's free.
I just, I've just been very, I'm not going to say lost.
It's free.
Okay. Okay.
It's free. She don't charge you to go to that 12 steps of sovereignty. Only the frauds charge you. Charge you for all kind of stuff. She just dropped out. I don't know. I didn't do that. So, but the frauds is gonna be the ones trying to charge you for everything, and the real ones is the ones that just trying to help you for free. I don't charge for nothing I do. Right? Empress Redbird tried to put me on salary, and I refused. Give it back to the children. And I'm not saying that to my own horn. We not doing this for self. We doing this so that y'all can take y'all power back the exact same way that me and the Empress and a whole bunch of others have had to take their power back. We have to first take back the sense of self and the power of being in self in order to know where we at and where our alliances is at. You're going to always have opposition if you're going in the right direction. That's how you know you're going the right direction. Because people that don't know you from a rock in Iraq got a whole encyclopedia written about you. And you don't even know them people. Ain't never had one conversation with them, ain't never talked to them, and they never been around them, but they know more about you than you do. They don't even know a relative of yours that know they related to you. And they got more to say about you. They are not what they doing. They gonna worry about what everybody else doing, what they doing, right? So when you know, don't listen to other people. Go find out for yourself. Go find out. Go find out for yourself. Are you coming up now, Willie? Go find out what somebody about for yourself. People jump on the bandwagon too quick. They can't even play a fucking instrument. How you gonna be on the bandwagon and you can't even play an instrument? It's ridiculous. Peace, God. Can you hear me?